Well, hello. Hi. Welcome back to Unicorn Corner. I'm Princess P. I mean, not really, but you know. And these are unicorns behind me. Over there. This one here. This one here. There's another one here. Together that makes Princess Peach and Unicorns just for Halloween, because why not? If you want to see the cosplay tutorial for this look, click on the card up here. If that card is not there, it means I haven't uploaded it yet, so be patient. Patience is a virtue. Today's featured unicorn is Spark. Because I asked you to come up with a name for this beautiful little creature that was made for me, and YouTube fangirl named Eden, who is awesome and I want to give a big shout out to, came up with Spark, so this is now Spark. I'm a unicorn! I hope you're having a good spooky evening. It's Halloweeny. This is not a scary look, but I like unicorns. But I'm going to try and do a scary look, just for you. But today we are reacting to Anthony Padilla's I Spent a Day with Borderline Personalities. Yay! Woo! I don't know if I can handle this. Okay, so I'm just gonna go with it, and
why are we still here?
Yeah. Let's do this. Mario? I've heard mixed things, I'm gonna be honest. I went on live before this, I'll link it up here, and I talked very much about my fears about this and what happened with the DID community, how Anthony Padilla has not taken any responsibility or ownership over what happened to the DID community, and more importantly, the systems and the people affected by that. Not even just like the community, like the individuals that have been very much affected by it. So I have a lot of fears, because even if he has the best intentions, things like borderline personality disorder are incredibly stigmatized, and I love that someone with such a huge platform is trying to raise awareness and destigmatize it, I hope. But the problem is that with his DID one, I feel like he didn't destigmatize it. And people, it didn't really change public opinion, and public opinion went to the DID community and hurt a lot of those people, those systems as a result, which I'm not saying it's purely Anthony Padilla's fault, but I do think that there were certain things about I Spent a Day with people with multiple personalities. It seemed a bit like a show to me. Mario! It was a performance. Mario! It was just a bit of a problem to me. I think it could have been a lot more focused on destigmatizing and much more focused on the disorder, as opposed to someone switching multiple times and not really knowing what's going on. I don't think that was the right way to do it. But who am I to say that? I don't know. I'm me. I have a platform. I say what I like on my platform. You may disagree with me, and if you do, that's absolutely great. Put it in the comment section. We'll have a chat. And I genuinely mean that. I'm not all about forcing you guys to agree with me. You think what you want. I'll think what I want. If they're different, we'll talk. Maybe we'll change opinion. Maybe we won't. But this is the internet, and it's 2020. So yeah, anyway, I'm terrified of watching this video. I broke down in tears, as you'll see if you watch the live, and I was very very scared about the whole thing. So pray for me. And I do have a Traits of BPD video coming up for you soon as well, so we'll do that. But BPD is highly stigmatized. I've got a whole debunking BPD playlist if you want to look at that, because a lot of people do have misconceptions, like how we're all manipulative monsters that want to like destroy you and kill you and ruin your lives. Yeah, That's how I spend my days. Over my cauldron, magically thinking how I'm going to destroy some random person's life when I have no reason to at all, because that's the best reason to do it, right? Anyway, yeah, the basic idea is that we're all manipulative monsters and we get angry and abusive. And I've heard mixed things about this. Some people have said it focuses a lot on anger, too much on anger. Some people have said that it focuses too much on relationships, which is a very... But then I've also had conversations with people that think it was a really great representation or introduction to the world about borderline personality disorder and trying to start destigmatizing it. So let's do this. Okay.
Borderline personality disorder, or BPD, is a disorder marked by ongoing instability in moods, behaviors, relationships, and overall sense of self, creating a tumultuous internal environment accompanied with a chronic fear of abandonment. Those with this disorder often experience a tidal wave of may feel like overreactions to the outside world. In 1938,
24 seconds in. Not a bad introduction, way too fast. I understand the desire to want to get information out there within a certain time frame because it's a video, but I know people that upload videos that are 4 hours long and people watch them. Most of my videos are around 45 minutes to an hour, and if the information is complicated, then I think it is worth taking the time to actually explain it, because to be quite honest with you, frankly, I'm not 100% sure what he just said already. It's gone out of my head because it was so fast and there were so many images.
Sure, Jan.
The images were all emotive, and I feel like the words that he used were accurate, but I feel like he could have slowed that down and he could have chosen different imagery rather than looking at people that are old, people that are clearly having problems in relationships, people who are really struggling with identity.
You talking to me?
And I get wanting to portray those certain emotions and get them across visually as well as verbally. But equally, what he could have done, if you ask me, is find some videos on YouTube of people talking about BPD and shoved those in. Not only would that be a great way to actually show real people with real BPD, with really talking about it on the platform, but linking through to channels that talk about BPD would also help people if they want to further research it. You might feel like I'm getting hot and heavy right from the word go, but you're going to ask me to comment, and I'm going to comment with what I think. And I think instead of showing this stock footage that is designed to make you emotional and tumultuous, he could have actually just shown real people talking about it and having, for example, a picture of me now and a picture of me in a video of me completely losing my shit. You know, I am. It's just an idea, and it does help people know where to go. With the DID video, everyone went over to Dissociated's channel, and no one's gone to look at other channels for people talking about it. And I think if that's what he wants to do, he should be saying, you know, these are some creators that talk about it. Maybe he does, but welcome to Ranting Bitch Kez. Okay, good. Let's go.
journalist Adolf Stern first used the term borderline to describe patients whose conditions didn't quite fit into a standard group and instead bordered on other conditions.
34 seconds in. Wow, we got a full 10 seconds in. It's not going to be like this the whole time. I hope. My God. This is true. Borderline personality disorder was first coined as borderline personality disorder because it borders on different disorders. This is kind of accurate, but it's inaccurate. Actually, it's called borderline personality disorder because the symptoms of borderline personality disorder border between neurosis and psychosis, but it is comorbid with a lot of other disorders. But I just wanted to add that in there.
Although appearing rare to the general public, an estimated 1 to 2% of people have this disorder worldwide.
So, borderline personality disorder is rarer than dissociative identity disorder.
Although appearing extremely rare to the general public, it's estimated that between 1 to 3% of the global population may have this disorder.
Interesting.
My name's Anthony Padilla, and today I'm going to be sitting down with people who have borderline personality disorder to learn the truth about this heavily misunderstood disorder. Have those with borderline personality disorder found a way to live in harmony with their unique perception of the world? Or do they find themselves suffocated by the fear of how their disorder may affect everyone else in their lives? Is living with BPD a completely manageable hurdle that goes almost unnoticed in most cases? Or are the effects this disorder has on every facet of daily life monumental and outright psychologically paralyzing?
Psychologically paralyzing, I think, would be more accurate here. I think that what he said there was pretty good. However, the way he talks about living in harmony with other people, people with borderline personality disorder really struggle with relationships. We find it very difficult. We have splitting, it's a whole big thing. Our unique perception of the world, it's not a BPD unique perception of the world, it's unique to the individual just as much as every life is unique to the individual. It just means that our emotions go from 1 to 100 in a moment and then they can go back down. I saw something the other day of someone saying, you can't be devastated, crying your eyes out, suicidal, and at the same time be cosplaying, making TikToks, laughing, all of this stuff.
To which I say, this is a really sad and apparently widely believed statement, and one that I think helps explain why BPD is such a stigmatized and misunderstood disorder. To many, we look like we're being overly dramatic or faking it because of the way our emotions can change so much, so quickly. Sadly, this is rarely the case. Sadly, or not so sadly, we're not being overly dramatic or faking for attention or being manipulative. It's just the way our minds work. It's not for us to judge how anyone behaves and chooses or is able to handle their mental health. Everyone is different. I know some people don't understand how you can, quote unquote, be in crisis one moment and then be back to normal or back to work the next morning. But that is what BPD behavior looks like. But it also doesn't mean we're making it up. We're not being melodramatic. I hate to say it, but we're kind of slaves to our emotions. And we try as hard as we can to learn to not be. But that doesn't mean we'll always be in control. And it doesn't mean our behavior won't ever seem odd or off to you. Just because you don't understand something doesn't mean it's a lie or something to be scared of. The best thing to do is to talk to the person whose behavior concerns you in a genuine fashion. Show some empathy and some understanding. And most of the time, you'll be rewarded with a fiercely loving and loyal friend for life.
Already, the way he's chosen to introduce this topic is triggering.
He's painting my biggest fear of it. All of the things that I am scared of, all of the things that make me feel like a burden on society, all of the things that make me feel like I don't belong anywhere. It's like he's highlighting each of my biggest insecurities and making out like this disorder is only that. Like he's reducing me to my biggest fears and insecurities due to me having borderline personality disorder. And I don't think that's right, and I don't think that's a fair way to introduce people to this disorder. We are not just the things that we are the most afraid of. We are so much more than that, and he's not making that clear. And while I think it's good that people will understand that someone having BPD has these fears and insecurities so that they can hopefully show some compassion, some empathy. I also think it's dangerous because people might think that that's all we are, or worse, that people might actually end up using those fears and insecurities against us to hurt us. And that puts the entire BPD community in an incredibly vulnerable position.
Teaching me about the world of borderline personality disorder.
The world of borderline personality disorder. The world.
The world!
It's so dramatic. The world.
The world!
So dramatic, guys.
Stop it. Get some help.
So what do you consider yourself? A borderline personality disorder survivor? Simply just borderline?
Just some survivor? I mean, borderline personality disorder is, there is something different in your brain, but it is kind of largely a disorder that you get through trauma, but like a survivor, no, there is no cure. You can't survive it. It is you every moment of your life until you die. You are it. You cannot survive it. I find that a really odd way, odd expression.
With BPD,
If you say borderline and use it as an adjective, I will accept that.
I don't consider myself a borderline.
Nope.
Or borderline personality disorder person.
Nope.
I consider myself Kez. Because that's who I am.
oh my god!
I'm not my disorder, and I don't like the implication that people should be identified for one of their disorders, especially when you have so much comorbidity as I do.
Can you explain what having borderline personality is like?
Like sort of you're standing in an empty swimming pool and then all of a sudden it just fills with water and you're anchored to the ground and you have no warning, and that's pretty much how my emotions hit me all at once.
Brilliant description.
It's like everything's turned up to 1,000, but you have no opportunity to opt out.
So
Brilliant description.
it's kind of like suddenly you'll have this overwhelming feeling of whatever emotion it is, just like amped up to infinity.
It's like going over the top of a roller coaster suddenly and your whole heart just like drops and you have no control.
Brilliant description.
So it's just this extreme reactivity where your moods are very dependent on not only what's happening around you and what other people think of you, but what you think other people think of you. Like you
Yes.
can be in a perfectly fine mood and then the person you're dating breaks up with you and instantly you're
Okay. Sorry. Okay. Let's just see what she's gonna say.
but like that morning you were fine.
Okay, I'm sorry, but that's a terrible I'm sorry, let me ask you, if you don't have BPD, hi, how you doing? If you woke up tomorrow morning and you were absolutely fine and then the love of your life broke up with you, would you just be fine? Probably not. That's not a good... That doesn't... No, it does not compute. It's more like you're absolutely fine and then the love of your life goes out to the shop to get some milk, but doesn't tell you, doesn't say goodbye to you, just like pops out, you hear the door close, and you go, oh my god, he's left and he's never coming back, when he's really just gone to get milk.
Ross, you did not come up with got milk.
Yes, I did. I did.
And then you end up crying, you're hysterical, you freak out, you might end up hurting yourself, you just, ugh. It's a whole big thing. But that's not, that it's over a small thing. It's very much that to you it would look like an extreme overreaction, and that's why people often go, oh, manipulative, because their emotions are way too much, and they also, but our emotions aren't too much. It's based on, there's a whole load of information which I'm not going to go into because this video will be hours long, but yeah, it's more like an extreme reaction. Like, imagine how you would react if the love of your life broke up with you, but then imagine reacting like that if your partner just popped to the shop to get milk and didn't tell you and you heard the door close and you reacted in the same way.
That makes sense to me.
Equally, you can go from being absolutely devastated about something to suddenly being absolutely euphoric, or vice versa, within like 10 minutes. Which is another reason it's very misunderstood, because people go, how can you go from feeling like that to like that in 10 minutes? It can't be. It's very disingenuous. When it's not.
So they're feelings that a lot of people feel, but they're exaggerated so much that it feels like a huge shift.
It's shame. It's constant shame. And the more of these experiences of losing control you have, the more it compounds the shame. Like, you're the flaw. You are walking guilt. You're so infected by these things you can't keep from getting in.
I don't think there's so much a case of control. I don't think people with BPD are like control. What's the word I want? When you have to control everything. But there's an aspect to it, but I don't think it's absolutely about control. But the shame, the guilt, it's me, there's something wrong with me, I don't fit in anywhere, what's wrong with me? Absolutely accurate.
I frequently go through bouts of depression for what I feel like is no reason. And I tell myself, you know, that logical side of my brain is like, you have no reason to feel this way, this isn't justified, like all you have to do is have a better perspective, and all these things that I know that I would say to someone if they came to me with the same problem, I could say to myself, but then I feel shame because I can't stop feeling whatever that feeling might be, that sadness, and I can't make it go away. So then I'm just internally beating myself up, and that makes it, that just exaggerates that feeling of guilt and sadness even more.
Yeah.
That's a really lovely way for him to relate. I feel very understood by that. If a friend of mine came up to me and could talk to me like that and have that kind of interchange, it fills my little borderline heart with joy, because I feel like he understands. So that's nice.
Good job! Can you recall any big moments in your life that were clearly shaped by BPD?
I was dating this guy who was also an author, and he had a book coming out, and he broke up with me, and these tumultuous romantic relationships are a big part of BPD.
Tumultuous relationships are such a big part of BPD that there is a Reddit thread called BPD Loved Ones that is basically a hate forum. People with BPD are not allowed to comment. You're allowed to go and look at it, but you're not allowed to comment. And it's basically a hate forum where people go to discuss how abusive and disgusting and horrible people with BPD are. And if you're in a relationship with someone with BPD and you find out they have BPD, then run. Don't even try with them. Video coming on that soon, by the way, so subscribe if you want that. Ding. Okay. We're back. Okay. My computer's having issues. Please just ignore me and my randomness. We're getting straight back into it. Go.
Night, absolutely not with the intention of doing this. I just went to Barnes & Noble to go book shopping, and there on the shelf was his book. And it was like this fire of rage lit inside me, and this is really funny and ridiculous in retrospect.
Okay.
I started ripping the covers off of his book.
And then someone working there saw you doing this, or?
Security cameras, like, hello.
Okay, I would just like to make a point here saying that is not... I felt that urge, but I've never done that. I don't believe that type of thing is... that's an outlier, okay? That's I mean, I have things, you know, like I have an eating disorder. I have severe problems with my weight, which is very common. There are a lot of, as I said, there's a lot of comorbidity, and eating disorders and self-harm are part of those things. I self-harm occasionally, and I have an eating disorder, and I've had times where I have weighed myself in my own house with my own scales, and I haven't liked what the scales said, so I picked them up and threw them. And I've had a similar thing with another thing that I own, and I'll throw it across the room, but I try generally to do that when I am on my own so no one gets hurt, and not in public places like this. There's a very difference between being like, "Arr!" and that. I'm not either. I'm not trying to shame this person either, because I do understand that feeling, and it's a good way to kind of try and help other people understand how intense those emotions are and how difficult they are to stop. The reason that I had myself admitted into a psychiatric hospital a few years back was because when this was before I had my diagnosis, and I would be kind of okay, but I was going through a really, really bad time. I was really, really, really depressed. But the reason that I said to the mental health team, I need you to take me away and to put me in a hospital, is because I didn't want to die, but I knew that if the emotions got too much, I wouldn't be able to stop myself from hurting myself. So I do understand it, and I have attempted suicide as well since then, and it's always something that you look back on and you're like,
But why?
Why did I think it was the end of the world? But you do. For me, it's very much like I have child cares and I have adult cares, and they're like waging a war constantly.
Independent bookstore, I went to Barnes and Noble. As I was walking out the door, a security guard grabbed the strap of my bag and pulled me back in. So I ended up getting arrested for defacing property.
I also think that's an overreaction in general. Unless she said, I'm not paying.
Nope.
She shouldn't be arrested. And also, someone doing something like that, there's some shit going on there. You don't arrest that person. You might call the police, but you don't arrest that person. You get that person some help because they clearly need it.
What?
Just an FYI, if you're a security guard or someone in that kind of position and you would think of getting that person arrested and having them thrown in lockup for a while, yeah, that's not the way to deal with it. The way to deal with it is to sit them down, have a cup of tea, and get them some help. Thank you.
And you literally ripped off the faces of the books. That's just too much. I can't handle
Yeah,
that.
no,
That's
I
too
know.
much.
I'm very literal. And I had to do a lot of community service, and so I cleaned a New York City park for a week.
Wow, how kind of you.
Right?
One thing that I will say with that is I've had experiences with the police here in the UK, and they treat you with absolutely no respect. They do not understand, and it's not necessarily their fault, but they don't seem to understand. And a lot of people in general don't know how to deal with people with borderline personality disorder, because it is such an extreme disorder. And especially then when you throw on comorbidity, it becomes very difficult. And obviously strangers don't know that you have X, Y, or Z, and they can be very cruel about it. And the problem is that if they're cruel about it, that just makes it worse.
What?
But I will also tell you right now, if you see someone having a moment and they might have BPD, not that you should really be judging, but people with BPD, they are far more likely to hurt themselves than to hurt you. So that's why I say the way to deal with it is to get them help, not to escalate it. And the police escalate, and it's not good.
When I was younger, it was hard to form relationships, not necessarily friendships. It really manifested itself in romantic relationships, sort of an inability to pull back, a real penchant for attaching yourself to somebody.
Yeah, with BPD, it's what they call favorite person or favorite human. I have used this phrase for years. My partner, Chris, he's wonderful.
All eyes.
Yeah, he's wonderful. But I always have said, you're my favorite human. No, like HOOMAN. And I've always said it, and it was only in the last couple of years that I realised that people with BPD have favourite persons. So we get very attached very quickly, and I think that's one reason relationships are difficult, because people that don't have BPD can be a bit like, wow, you're coming on a bit strong, but you don't know that. And so the best way to deal with that is to tell the person you're coming on a bit strong. Instead of, I'm just going to start ignoring their messages, because then we feel like you're abandoning us, and it gets really difficult. He's mentioning high school, just a very quick me. You cannot be diagnosed with a personality disorder until the age of 18, which causes a lot of problems. I went through a lot of very severe trauma throughout a lot of my childhood, but especially around my teenage years, between the ages of about 12 and 17. And I believe my borderline personality disorder is kind of a result of what I went through there. But you cannot be diagnosed with it until you're an adult, because a personality disorder, you need to wait until your personality has finished developing fully before you can then know if it's a personality disorder or a mood disorder or something else.
Just text and talk and call, and what's she doing? Is she with somebody else and texting? And there was
he's talking there quite paranoid. Is this person cheating on me? I personally have never had that, because I mean, no offense, but who would cheat on this? I mean, you know you wouldn't cheat on this. This is gold. I'm joking. But I've never been like, sometimes I'll be a bit like, people talking shit about me behind my back. And I'll think that if someone is being quiet, I'll be like, well, it's my fault.
It's your fault. See, it's her fault, and it isn't mine at all.
It's my fault, instead of thinking, what else could it be? And sometimes I'll say to Chris, like, are you upset with me? And he'll be like, what? Why would I be? What have you done? And I'll be like, well, nothing, but... So.
And that is where you just lose it, because
that I'm sure you can see the reaction. No, please don't do that. This idea of this person is toxic and I don't need that shit in my life, so just like block and move on. That is damn hurtful. It is disgusting to me. Sometimes there are situations where you need to do it and it's justified, but if you're the type of person that's like, this person's pissing me off, so I'm blocking them and moving on with my life, and actually the reason is because maybe they're like mentally ill or something, that's gross. And please don't do that. Please don't just stop responding to someone's messages one day. Tell them why. Yeah, I get that confrontation is difficult. I get that not everyone wants to have that conversation, but it is so hurtful to just, no, cut them off. It's so hurtful. And when you block someone online, you don't even give them the opportunity to ever say anything to you. You know, that they can never come back to you and say, I realized that what I was doing was messed up and I'm sorry. For example, you're suddenly not even allowing room for that. You're not allowing anything. You're literally taking complete control of the situation and their emotions, and it's so hurtful. Anyone, even without BPD, gets hurt when someone just stops responding to messages. So when someone has BPD or is severely depressed or just depressed for them and struggling, and you say, nah, I can't be dealing with this, it's horrible. It's horrible. And while it is our responsibility as human beings, as people, to own our actions, sometimes I have, as I told you before, I have attempted suicide. And the catalyst has often been because someone just suddenly said, just block me, without even telling me that they were blocking me or giving me any conversation. And it is so hurtful. So, like, if there's any way for you to get around not doing that, it's like, I have people in my life that I have blocked. There are not many. I think on Twitter I've blocked like one person because I don't like blocking. I don't think it's right. But more importantly than that, I have a member of my family who was very abusive, very horrible. So I blocked them on social media, but I did provide a way to contact me if they ever want to, because I don't feel it's right to just say, I'm not even giving you the right to ever speak to me again, to apologize. Imagine if someone's doing 12-step and they have to do that whole like going and apologizing to people. If you block someone, it means that they can't do that. So.
Because again, that's abandonment in a nutshell. I was going to a private school at the time.
And yes, it is abandonment, and people with BPD are terrified of abandonment. My mum committed suicide when I was 15. She tried a couple of times before, and my dad was never around. So, big fear of abandonment here.
And I went to campus and, found her and, threatened to kill myself if we weren't together. And I had no desire to myself, but I had a desire to manipulate someone into being with me. And
No. Okay. That, I'm sorry to this gentleman. He's obviously talking about something that happened in his past. It's obvious that this gentleman realizes that, he's had time to reflect on his actions. But for Anthony Padilla to keep that in there, is disgusting to me. It is disgusting to me. People think one of the big stigmas, the reason BPD is so stigmatized is because people think that people with BPD are manipulative. As I said at the beginning, I have had times when I have told someone, if this is it, I'm killing myself. But that's not manipulation. In that moment, I absolutely mean it. In that moment, I absolutely intend to end my life because I don't want to live in a world without that person in it. And if they don't want to be in a world with me anymore and they want to move on, I don't want to be here. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a good way to handle a situation like that, and to some people who don't understand BPD, they might say you're holding someone emotionally hostage and it is abusive, but there also needs to be an understanding here that generally when someone with BPD tells you they want to take their own life, in that moment they absolutely mean it. They are not trying to manipulate you. It might feel like they are, but they're not. But Anthony, someone who I would expect, who I know has like researchers and staff, someone I would have expected to know that the main stigma is about manipulation, deciding to keep a bit in here where someone says,
I absolutely intended to manipulate that person into being in a relationship with me.
No, that's not a BPD thing, that's a this guy thing. And what Anthony's done here, by throwing the word manipulator out, that's the word that people are going to take away. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry that you probably think I'm overreacting because BPD, but to me this is gross. Anthony, like why would you do that? Why would you take The one word that you have to know, is why this disorder is highly stigmatized, and throw it into your video so that the whole world can hear someone with borderline personality disorder say,
I went up to my ex and told them I was going to kill myself if they left me or didn't get back together with me, even though I had no intention of killing myself, but I absolutely, in my head, decided to manipulate that person into being in a relationship with me.
that is not a BPD thing, that is a this guy thing, and that's not okay to keep that in there.
Fuck this shit, I'm out.
And it took a long time. I think it was probably about a year or two ago where I finally admitted that situation. And
it implies that we are all manipulators, and we're not. A lot of people do look at something like this and go, oh yeah, I've got that disorder, or yeah, so-and-so must have that disorder. And then they act like it's true. And imagine your friend deciding that you must have this disorder when you don't, and then starting to treat you differently. It's gross, it's horrible. And yeah, making a point of saying, do ample research, do more research is fine, but it really feels like you're just covering your own ass, because you know that people are going to say, well, according to this, I think the person's got it. So BPD loved ones, what do you think? Oh, I should just leave. Great, that's great. And also, people with BPD, I've described this in a video before, I have like different Kezes depending on my mood, depending on my day. So I'll have like, then I'll have like
grunge cares or pastel goth cares.
I'll have like mature sophisticated cares, and then I'll have like, I have very different types of Kezes. And for this reason, a lot of people with borderline personality disorder get misdiagnosed with dissociative identity disorder. So to interweave the two of them together, I think is a mistake, and I think it's dangerous.
Are there any dangerous aspects to having BPD?
Oh yeah, self-harm is prevalent in our community. I myself have a long history of self-harm. I have all of these feelings. I need to do something about it. I can't smash anything, I can't break anything because I'm too small. And if I think about it, all of my emotions are because there's something wrong with me, so I'm just gonna take it out on myself. And that was like how I would react. Those were like my big outbursts at the time.
As I said, people with BPD are far more likely to hurt themselves than they are likely to hurt you.
Well, we are much more likely to die by than people with other mental illnesses.
Do you feel like part of that's because your emotions are so dialed up that the sadness is really, really strong and debilitating?
Yeah.
No, I disagree with that. I don't think it's because the sad is so low that we're more likely to hurt ourselves. I think it's because all of our emotions are so strong. It's all emotion all the time, and it is exhausting. So when you have a moment when you are feeling overwhelmed and just, you just want it to end, because the emotions are so up and down, left and right, and people misjudge you and say horrible things about you and stigmatize against you, and you're here trying to live your life, and it's exhausting. It is exhausting, and it's debilitating on a daily basis. So it's not just that the sad is so much more sad than other people's sad. I mean, it is really, really, really sad, but I'm not going to sit here and say that my sadness is any more sad than your sadness, because I don't know you, and that's not really fair to say, and I don't think we need to be like comparing like whose sadness is more. But I think it's because just it's exhausting, and when we do feel that pain, we just think, I'm done with it, make it stop.
Before you were diagnosed, did you feel like there was something about the way that you experienced the world that was just different?
Yes, absolutely. I wondered why I was such a weirdo. I wondered why nobody felt things as intensely as I did. That intensity of feeling was a lot of what drew bullies to me. I think that's how bullies work in many ways. The more you show them you're a target, the more likely you are to burst into tears when they say something awful to you.
It's almost rewarding them. It's giving the bullies what they want. They want a reaction.
Yeah, but you can't help but react because your natural response to everything is to have these big, huge emotional reactions.
If you're not diagnosed, I would agree, but from being diagnosed, you don't have to overreact to everything. You can learn with BPD. You can live with BPD and learn to not give bullies what they want.
You think that everybody is in love with you when actually everybody hates you. Because you are a mean girl. You're a bitch.
It's not like you will always have these incredibly emotional outbursts. I mean, that I do very regularly have very, very emotional outbursts, but I still have times where I'm able to actually pull back and deal with a situation in a mature adult way.
When people get too chummy with me, I like to call them by the wrong name to let them know I don't really care about them.
And then I get this incredible sense of pride where I'm like, wow, I didn't lose my shit.
That's a genius move.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Lester.
People find people with borderline personality disorder very upsetting and very difficult to deal with. And we lose a lot of friends. And the loss of friends just reinforces this idea that we're terrible. And again, like constant loop, and that loop becomes your life.
Where were you when you were diagnosed, and how has your life changed since then?
I was diagnosed in October of last year. My life has changed for the better. It really took hitting the bottom to really work your way back up. And the big thing about a diagnosis is that I know a lot of people can get lost in the fact that they're diagnosed. They view it as this big label that's sort of oppressive and really, oh my God, I'm borderline.
Yeah.
But for me, it gave me an ability to explain my action.
When I got diagnosed, I was like, yay, diagnosis, it explains stuff. But then when I realized what the disorder that I was diagnosed with was, I was like, oh, it's that disorder.
What the fuck?
Great. Yay.
Yippee.
For a disorder to already be so stigmatized that even when you don't really know much about mental health, you get diagnosed with it and your immediate instinct is...
So what is this borderline business you mentioned on the phone?
Great.
What borderline business?
It's that one.
The mind
Borderline what?
is the
Borderline
only
between what and what? Melvin.
It's a condition, Susanna, and it's called borderline personality disorder.
Oh, God.
It's not uncommon, especially among young women.
It's like I wouldn't be diagnosed with anything other than that. It's commonly said that BPD is the hardest, almost painful disorder to live with. There's no proof of that. Like, I'm not going to point you to a reference that says that. I mean, you can see it on Google, but equally, that's just someone saying it. I think that's more someone trying to explain just how difficult a disorder it is to live with. But as I said earlier, I don't believe that we should be saying, my disorder is worse than your disorder, or my pain is worse than your pain, because at the end of the day, everyone's different and we're more than just our disorder or more than just our pain. While it's hard to live with, it is lo que hay, as they would say in Spain.
But there were a few things missing that I just thought were just me. And with BPD, it was like, I check every single box.
Me too. It's beautiful.
So now I have a way to deal with it. I have the word for it. I can explain it and look it up if things aren't making sense.
My life was kind of a revolving door of mental health hospitalizations. And I have not been hospitalized since 2005 when I finally got the right therapy.
I want to say there that there is a thing with BPD that dissociation is a common element of it. But not everyone dissociates, but some people dissociate more. So if you are on the spectrum of very much, you dissociate a lot, you are probably going to experience more inpatient hospitalizations than if you don't. So that there's a lot of variety between how two different people with BPD might present. So it's not something that you can just look at a few characteristics and be like, that's it, because there's your whole backstory. They have to really go into your life and various things that have happened that have shaped you, and there's lots of questions that they ask, and it takes months to actually finalize a personality disorder diagnosis. So please don't think you can just because you can't.
Do you know if BPD is something that you develop or if it's something that you're born with?
People tend to develop later in life, usually as an adult or a teen, sometimes as a child. It usually comes from trauma. It can also just be an emotional, it could be hinged on other mental health issues. So depression, anxiety can eventually kind of culminate into BPD.
This is true. I am diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I have anorexia. I have PTSD. I have BPD I. I have CRPS, which is chronic pain. Hurts. And BPD is also known as emotionally unstable personality disorder as well. And then I have
dissociative amnesia,
periods of depression, and I have a lot of anxiety, and I get very panicky a lot. So it's very common for someone with BPD to have more diagnoses than just BPD. And that's actually another one of the reasons that you can get wrongly diagnosed. When I first saw specialists, they thought it was depression and anxiety, and it turned out to be something very, very, way more different, way more complex than depression and anxiety. And that's not me trying to say if you've just got depression and anxiety, it's nothing compared to what I have. That's not what I'm saying. What I mean is depression, there are medications that you can take. It's well documented. It's, people do have a good understanding of it. It's easier to get access to treatment and help. And the same with anxiety, whereas with a personality disorder, there's a lot of stigma, and there's also the comorbidity, and there's figuring out what works based on all of those multiple things.
When you're looking at the nature versus nurture argument, it's a nurture, very much so. And being a personality disorder, it's something that I find that, it explains it well, being that your personality has been shaped by something or multiple things over the years.
Do you feel like it's more common to feel one emotion over the others, or is it kind of more of a grab bag?
I feel like if I had to condense it down to 2 nouns, it would be rage and shame.
Rage and shame? Okay, I wouldn't, but okay.
I also think that the ability to feel a lot is a positive thing if you channel it that way. Those of us who have BPD, contrary to what it may look like to the people around us who don't, I think we all tend to have this just intense love for the people we love. Right. Sometimes that can become destructive, but it's really overwhelmingly positive, right? Who doesn't need more intense love in their lives?
It's not really that destructive. I would say that ever since I was a child, people would ask me, how would you describe yourself in one word? And I would say passionate. That's how I would condense my BPD, my mental health, down to is passionate. I feel passionate about everything. I feel strongly. I don't know how to not feel strongly. I don't know how to do that. And even if I'm trying, I still don't know how to do that. And also, because I'm so used to feeling strongly, when I feel probably normally, I kind of get a bit miserable because I feel like I'm numb when I'm probably in actuality not numb. I'm probably just feeling normally, whatever normally is. And also, a lot of people say that people with BPD, and I believe this personally, but it's soft, so you can decide what you want to do with it. It's common for us to kind of be empaths, and I struggle daily. I feel a lot, as I've said, but doing a YouTube channel, doing outreach on social media, and being there for other people is actually a way that helps me cope as well. And I do feel a lot for other people. So even if one of my friends is in a situation, I'll be so angry about it for them, or I'll feel so strongly about it. And sometimes even stronger than they do, because that's just me. But then sometimes you get the people that are like, stop making it about you. And you're like, I don't know what to do with that.
I've heard the term splitting being used in reference to borderline. Can you explain what that means?
Splitting is this like instant ability to think the exact opposite of what you thought 5 minutes ago based on change in situation.
It's all about absolutes. Either you are or you aren't. And that's when I refer to that cutting off or that shutting down.
Right, they're either in your life and extremely important, or they're just not in your life at all.
When, you know, if you could be really good friends and they say one thing to piss you off and it's boom, done.
But when it's boom, done, the thing is that shortly after that, the person with BPD will start feeling really bad about it, and they'll be really upset about it, and they'll know that they should go and apologize. But instead, what they're more likely to do is get really, really miserable and self-harm, because they will feel shame and they will feel regret, but they won't know how to deal with it. So they will process it through potentially self-harm or harmful behaviors. And we know, you know, go and apologize, talk it out, but sometimes it's very difficult for us to do that. So if you have a friend that you know has BPD, I'm not saying let them do whatever they want to do or get away with that kind of behavior, but at the same time, if you can understand it and maybe, you know, just take that under advisement, consider it, then it will help them and you and have a much smoother relationship.
14 jobs in the same mall.
You were just going from one store to the next?
Just like, I hate it here, I hate my coworkers, I hate this, I hate that, I don't want to be here, I'm sad. Yeah, it's just...
Were you switching because you kind of felt like the other spots would be the answer, would be the way for you to like dig yourself out of this hole that you were feeling?
Yeah, because I mean, part of the heightened emotion is like if I find something that I'm interested in, I'll become like super invested in it all at once and throw myself into it. So I like worked at a coffee shop.
It's the most important thing ever, and I have to do it right this second, and no, I can't wait for 10 minutes, and no, I can't stop because it's time for you to go to sleep. I have to do it right now, or it's just going to be a massive problem. This is People with BPD have a distorted perception of self, and we have a real struggle for identity, so we'll change a lot. We'll change our personalities, we'll change things that we like, we'll change the way we look, the way we dress. I mean, I have had super, super short hair, I've had super long hair, and now I wear wigs, because then I can change it up every day depending on how I feel. But it's very normal. So what she's describing here about getting really into like latte art, and then at a point just being like, I'm kind of completely over this now, that's very, very typical.
Am I here?
So you'll find yourself adopting these things into your life that you're just so obsessed with, and then all of a sudden you'll be like, actually, I don't really like that. Maybe I never liked it.
Yeah.
Ish.
Why do you think the diagnosis of BPD seems to have a gender bias, with about 3/4 of diagnoses weighted toward women?
A lot of that can go back to like toxic masculinity and all that. With men, a lot of their emotions just get ignored, or just sort of like, oh, well, you're a guy, you'll get over it.
I feel like men are told that they should suppress their emotions if they have them, and if they have them, certainly don't talk about them. And, you know, if a guy is getting upset.
Going off that, I know he's talking about guys, not talking about emotions, but the way that I grew up, I kind of learned that the way that you handle emotion is you do keep it all inside and you don't tell anyone about it. And it was only when I met my current partner that he said to me, like, no, that's not how you deal with it. You can't just keep everything inside and then just explode at someone randomly one day because you're so overwhelmed. You need to feel like you can talk about things as and when they're happening. And you getting upset and just being like, I'm just going to the toilet, and then going into the bathroom and locking yourself in there, and then me hearing you crying your eyes out for half an hour, that's not a healthy way to deal with it. But I always was taught that that was the right way to deal with it. Hide your emotion.
And with BPD generally stemming in many cases from childhood trauma,
yes,
I find that, you know, unfortunately, I find the numbers skewed generally more towards women, that aspect. Because a lot of that trauma can be skewed towards the female side, they're the ones that, you know, are diagnosed the most.
Yes.
And with men that are abused as kids, they generally tend to repress it more or not want to come to face to face with it more. And that's why you see those numbers the way they are.
Yes.
Have there been any sort of mechanisms that you've adopted that have helped you learn to cope with borderline personality disorder?
Dialectical behavior therapy basically starts from the point of, okay, we have to interrupt self-harming behaviors. What are the first steps we can teach you to help you stop trying to kill yourself so that we can do therapy?
How you doing? Well, I'm doing just fine. I lied, I'm dying inside.
You know, if you're asked if you ever self-harm or anything like that, and if you're honest and you say yes and you tell them the last time, often they won't provide you with the support that you need to stop doing that destructive behavior, because you need to stop doing that destructive behavior before we can help you. This is the logic of the NHS, okay? Oh, you're self-harming every day. Well, you need to stop self-harming before we'll help you to stop self-harming.
So DBT breaks it down into 4 modules, and the 4 modules are mindfulness, which is like, when I first walked in, I was like, mindful, what is this? I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you hear that word being thrown around all the time. You're like,
right, like, what is this
hippie?
And then the next module is distress tolerance, so which is basically how to get through a bad situation without making it worse. The third is emotion regulation, so how to stop your emotions.
I saw a tweet the other day. I'm gonna put it on the screen right now so you can see it. And this tweet made me go apeshit because it basically implied that mental health is your own fault, and it's just a case of changing a few behaviors. And to me, DBT, I find the very thought of it to be very patronizing, personally. I don't like it. I don't like being spoken to in that way, but I think there's a conversation to be had here about the actualities and the truthfulness of treatment for people with borderline personality disorder and ableism and privilege and a lot of stuff.
It's just how to show respect for other people and take no for an answer, basically.
How to show respect for other people. See what I mean? It just feels like this is how you teach children to be, but we're not children.
NANI?
And to me, it just is. No, I'm sorry. No. I mean, I hate to say it, but like, I was very good at school. I have a first-class degree. I went to UCL. I did anthropology for postgrad. Like, don't talk to me like I'm a child, please, even if I look like one today. I'm not.
Basically, you have homework to go out and practice that skill and come back and you go through your homework step by step.
But then you become so acclimated to thinking that way over the 6-month period that you can apply it to your everyday life.
It just takes practice, you know, it's like anything.
I personally think this type of thing is pretty much what I do on my own.
Oh my God, I can't believe it!
I personally found that when I'm feeling very, very distressed, if I film a video of me crying my eyes out for 20 minutes straight or whatever and talking it through, that helps me process it without hurting the people that I love. And there are a lot of ways to deal with it.
That is brand new information!
Do you feel like borderline personality disorder is properly named?
No, I don't. There was actually a push to rename BPD emotion regulation disorder.
Whew.
Oh, emotion
And
regulation.
that to me is like, yeah, that's what it's all about.
I think emotional dysregulation. Oh, don't worry. I think emotional dysregulation disorder is a good name. In the UK, it's also called emotionally unstable personality disorder, and that's what I actually got diagnosed with. And I was like, you know what? You can call me borderline any day of the week over emotionally unstable. It makes it sound like, and I don't like to throw this label on. I mean, they have in this, I didn't really want to bring this into it, but it does feed back to that idea of toxic masculinity. It does lead back to me feeling like, oh wait, so I'm a woman who is emotionally unstable, you know, instead of like struggling with emotions like someone with bipolar, although that's a mood disorder, you know, they experience highs and lows too, but they can be medicated for it. And they're over like weeks or months, whereas we can go like actually when I was 15, just after my mum died, I was having a really difficult time when I went back to school, trying to deal with the idea that I knew that people who suffered from depression and committed suicide, if they had children, their children were very likely to follow in their footsteps. And I was absolutely terrified because I was so miserable because, you know, my mum had just died and I had to move in with someone who was basically a complete stranger to me, and I was terrified, and it was all horrible. And my science teacher, his name was Mr. Crow. I think he was Australian, but he may have been from New Zealand. It's a long time ago. But he said something to me that has always stuck with me. He said, the thing is, you are like this. Up, down, up, down, up, down. But it's better to be like that than like this. Because if you're like this, you never get the highs. You might not get the lows, but you never get those highs. And it always stuck with me, and it always will. You know, it's been years since I saw him. It's been years since that interchange, and I still remember it all so well. He then gave me the rest of the class off to go to the library to read up on depression and mental illness, and it was a beautiful thing. And it was way before like I got diagnosed with borderline, but it was just a really nice, you know, it felt good. Yes, I'm not Princess Peach today. I'm the queen of borderline personality disorder. A bow to me, peasants. Sorry.
It's a much more accurate name.
I saw someone throw out emotionally unstable personality
disorder. Yeah, which I think is a little negative.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't think someone wants to be told that they're emotionally unstable.
Right.
I really don't. No.
Even though you are. Right?
Oh God, if anyone was like, you're emotionally unstable, I'd be like, get out of my face. And like, I know that it's true. It gets confused, at least with people who are completely unaware of what it is. A lot of the times it's either confused for bipolar or just based on the name. They're like, oh no, I think it's called bipolar. I've gotten that response, which is like, I know what it's called.
Yeah,
I know what I have.
BPD, bipolar disorder. You have bipolar disorder.
And also, like, if you say, I'm borderline, people are like, on the borderline of what?
What do you say to that?
Just everything.
The big difference between bipolar disorder and borderline personality disorder is the situationality of the mood swings.
Scooping Poop wants to know if doctors and professionals have ever made you feel evil or demonized.
Yes. Absolutely. If you have borderline personality disorder, you are basically treated like a piece of crap. Especially in the UK, getting treatment is near impossible. Even though we have free healthcare, you can watch my NHS Nightmare Stories Part 1 if you want to know a bit more about that. And you can also watch my TikTok. I have a reacting to BPD TikToks on there, and I talk a bit about how doctors, professionals do demonize you and hate you. And I've had people tell me I'm delusional when I've told them that my mum killed herself. Like, It's horrible. I've had people say that my chronic back pain that I've had, which is highly debilitating, I was bedridden for a year. I had to learn to walk again. I still have to walk with a walking stick most of the time. It's very, very debilitating, and I've had professionals be like, no, you don't have that. It's just, you know, psychosomatic, or even worse, just like, no, it's a psychosis. And actually once I even got to the point where I was like, you know what, that's horrible. But then I got to the point where I was like, you know what, fine, put me on antipsychotics, because right at this point I've been dealing with this back pain every moment of my life. I have forgotten what it's like to not be in pain. Imagine that for a moment. From the moment you wake up to the moment you go to sleep and throughout the night, you're in pain every day for 15 years. If antipsychotics can fix me, give me them antipsychotics. And then they decided not to. It's difficult. Anyway, yeah, the answer is in the UK. And I know a lot of people with BPD online. We have a community. It's a nice community. I like it there. Almost everyone says the same. We get very, very highly demonized, even with professionals, and it's horrible.
Oh yeah, there are therapists who still to this day just won't treat people with BPD because they don't want to take on that kind of
Yeah, it's true. It's really, really difficult. If you get to see a professional, chances are they won't want to treat you. Also, I developed anorexia when I was in hospital, and they refused to give me treatment for anorexia. If you saw me I've lost a lot of weight in the last few years because I don't eat, and they wouldn't treat me for my eating disorder because they said it was a symptom of my borderline personality disorder. But that doesn't mean I don't have anorexia.
I can't tell you how many I mean, having BPD is just like a long series of destroyed relationships in many ways, and there are therapists who just don't want to deal with us.
I just want to say another thing here about this, and I know this is a long video, but if you're not aware, I have a mental health awareness playlist. It will be in the description box below. It's not just videos from me, it's videos from other people. And Dr. Daniel Fox is absolutely fantastic. I've got something from Alexa Paletti on there. I've got something from Pixie Locks on there. I've got things from me. I think I've got something from Tamimi on there. Like, basically when I'm watching stuff, as long as I remember about the playlist, if it fits in, I'll add it. So you get a good kind of range of videos. But I came across Katie Morton, don't know her name, don't really care, sorry. But what she did to Eugenia Cooney, that's another video. But no, what she did, gross. I didn't know about that until recently though. I watched a couple of her videos on borderline personality disorder, and she made me feel like the worst human being on the planet. I was self-harming because I watched her videos, because she demonizes us. I'm sure there are some people who like that tough love style of therapy. But to me, the way Katie Morton paints a picture of us is so disgusting. I'm gonna go off. If you want to see that video, let me know.
People with BPD already have that fear of abandonment, and then to throw on top the person that you trust to not abandon you, a therapist, to get abandoned by them, that's gotta be horrifying. It's gotta be terrible.
It is.
I had a therapist who I loved. One day I opened up about the fact that I had been cutting myself, and I was reaching out sort of like, I want to know how to cope with this better since I know that I need to cope with this. He told me that if I didn't promise right then and there that I would never do it again, he was going to call the mental hospital and have me put away.
He's betraying your trust.
I don't know if this is the worst.
That is disgusting. That is so...
It's ever going to be. And I can't promise that I'm not gonna turn to that later on because that's been my coping mechanism for so long. He was steadfast in, nope.
I hope that therapist, doctor, I want to know who that person is, because that is disgusting. You can't just do that. It's this ridiculous thing of, well, if you're self-harming, then you're not stable enough to go through therapy to stop from self-harming. I don't understand the logic in the healthcare system when it comes to mental illnesses generally, and I think there's a massive problem. Before I got diagnosed, I had a psychiatrist I saw who sat me down and we talked about everything that had happened in my life, and he said to me,
I can't help you. I'm a psychiatrist. I deal with things like clinical depression, things that I can prescribe medication for. I can't prescribe you medication. You just had a shit life. Bye.
and that was it. I feel a bit like he should have got someone from the UK or from somewhere else. I feel like just having people from America really doesn't, it would be good to show people in other parts of the world and how it's dealt with there. And I do feel like the fact that there are doctors in the US that say, no, if you ever self-harm again, you're going to hospital. I mean, in the UK, you can't do that. To section someone, they have to be, like, it has to be extreme for you to be able to section someone. In the UK, if I hurt myself, and they called paramedics or whatever, they would make me see someone, but they wouldn't lock me away.
One thing that I would absolutely love to see from Anthony Padilla in the future is for him to have an expert or a therapist or a doctor or someone who can show the other side, someone who can explain why therapists, for example, treat people with BPD like we're children or like we're demons. Because I don't think that's a side that's understood well enough. And I think in order to really have a good balance and information for the audience, it would be good to hear that side, especially as someone who has BPD. I would love to hear a therapist try and defend their actions treating people with borderline personality disorder, people who have primarily trauma-based disorders. So yeah, maybe raging Kez right now is angry and wants a fight, I guess. But I would love to hear that side. And I think for future episodes where Anthony Padilla is dealing with very sensitive subjects, it would be good to have someone from the other side just to hear a little bit of information from them too. Okay, back to Princess Peach me now.
I went to my parents and thank God they sided with me and were like, okay, we'll get you a new therapist. That's fine. But it completely traumatized me. And a large part of why I was out of therapy for so long and didn't get a diagnosis for so long was because of that interaction. It made me terrified.
I am an expert in destroying relationships, so let me tell you, especially coming from someone who...
Most relationships I've had in the past, the bridges have been burned. Yeah. Sometimes my decision, sometimes other people's decision. I had a friend, she was the closest friend to me ever. I told her that I had been raped, and a few days later she told me she never wanted to see me again.
From someone who had to end an engagement last year.
Right.
It's something that the biggest mistake that most people make having BPD in a relationship is that you feel like that other person is your end-all be-all. Relationships are a partnership, and if you come in as 1/3 of a puzzle piece and you think they're the 2/3, you are going to do incredible damage.
On this relationship side of thing for a second, I don't agree with this guy's view on it, but I don't believe that they should be putting such a focus on the fact that we struggle with relationships. There are plenty of us who do have relationships. Yeah, we do have problems. That I think every relationship has some problems. I don't think anyone has the perfect relationship, and generally if it looks like the perfect relationship, it's probably not. But I just want to say this: if you are in a relationship with someone who has or you think has BPD, please do not go to the subreddit BPD Loved Ones. Instead, please go to r/BPD Advice. That is my subreddit. Welcome. It's brand new. But please, if you need advice, please go to that subreddit. That is r/BPD advice. And there's also r/stigma-free. Or, you know, you can come directly to me. Instagram, Twitter. Twitter's probably better. Ask me a question. DM me. I will reply to you. Because I can't reply to myself. I'm sure you get what I mean.
Because you cannot use them as a crutch like that. So the first thing I would say is get comfortable with yourself, come to terms with yourself, build your social network.
Just because you're learning the skills doesn't mean everybody else is.
Yeah.
Because of you, there's a giant in our midst, and my wife is dead. But it isn't my
No! God, please, no!
to trade away my cow for beans, and without those beans, there'd have been no stalk to get up to the giants in the first place. Wait a minute, magic beans for a cow so old that you had to tell a lie to sell it, which you told.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. You just can't get into it because they
So it's your fault. No. Yes, it is. It's not. It's true. Wait a minute. But I only stole the gold to get my cow back from you. So it's your fault. Yes. No, it isn't. I'd have kept those beans, but our house was cursed. She made us get a cow to get the curse reversed.
It's your father's fault that the curse got placed and the place got cursed in the first. Good job.
This idea, this question to me is a bit ridiculous. It's like, okay, so you want to ask, how do you deal with how does someone with BPD have a relationship? How does anyone have a relationship? There's no like quick fix guide that says this is how you have a relationship with someone, or even you might get people that wigs and just jewelry. There's no quick fix guide on a relationship. There's no this will work, this won't work. And it's the same with BPD. It's a case of being honest with your partner, telling them if you know you have BPD, tell them you have it. Ask them to learn about it. Hopefully, if they love you or they're very interested in being with you, they'll want to learn about it themselves anyway. And have an open dialogue.
So sometimes the reason you can't maintain relationships with people is because you pick the wrong people. Like,
so it's not always a problem with you needing to change. Sometimes it's the people that.
Right. I mean, there always was a problem, right, with me needing.
Sometimes it is picking the wrong people. I think sometimes people with BPD, it's the same with anyone that's been in a sort of an abusive relationship or whatever. You can end up finding yourself attracted to those types of people and those types of relationships.
When you don't think you're worth anything, you kind of tend to gravitate toward people who will treat you badly.
Just finishing up quick. I'm sorry, I have so many problems today filming this. Okay.
I have no idea what I'm doing, but I know I'm doing it really, really well.
If you're someone struggling, please reach out to me on social media. One thing that I want to say about just that last bit, I get the whole validate me thing. It's kind of like owning our own shit. It's self-deprecating humor, but at the same time, especially for me, what the hell has happened to my crown? Oh well, who cares? Validation is really, really important. I'm not able to internally validate. All of my validation is reliant on other people, and it shouldn't be that way, but it is. And I try my best to say, like, I'm proud that I managed to do X, Y, or Z, but it's very difficult. So that I didn't like very much. But I'm going to say, if you are someone and you may have BPD or you do, or if you're someone who wants to ask a question about someone that you know or love, as I said, there's r/BPD advice. Please come say hello. And there's also my social medias, Instagram, Twitter. Comment down below. It's all good. You can DM me if you are not happy to leave a comment publicly down below. But if you are, please do leave a comment down below because it helps people see me and I'm a tiny channel. But overall, I know that may have sounded like I was ripping it apart. But there were some good points and there were some bad points, and I think a lot of what we're really going to see is how do people react to this? Do we start seeing people have a bit more respect for those of us with BPD, or are we going to see more people say that we're all manipulative psychos? Because that's what people say, and it's horrible and it's hurtful. I do think it's great that Anthony Padilla is bringing focus to some disorders that are widely misunderstood. And I hope
I hope that this has been useful to hear someone with BPD, how I felt watching it, adding in the information, the context that I did. And yeah, let me know down below. Check out some of my other videos. I obviously do cosplays as well and makeup and stuff, so it's not just mental health, but my channel has a large mental health focus. If there's anything else you'd like to see me react to, or me comparing a couple of different channels and the way they talk about BPD or CPTSD or anything like that, do let me know in the comment section below. Follow me on social media where I am Kezandunicorns everywhere. Come join the Reddit, and I will, for now, say thank you to Sparky and say arigatou gozaimasu, give you a big kiss, peachy kiss, and until next time, keep on unicorning.